And we're back. I'm Alec Dinkoff, voice actor with creator and founder of Open Source Workplace, Steve Todd. Steve, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well, and thank you to everybody for joining us today.
Fantastic. And for those of you new, just joining us, remember to subscribe. I can't say it, but you should do it. And hit that notification bell down there at the bottom so that way you're updated on all our new alerts. Steve, for everyone just tuning in, share something about yourself so they can start to get to know you as a person outside of just Open Source Workplace.
Wow. So where do we start? We've already given one. So I guess another thing I would share, a lot of people know that I'm a big Manchester United fan. Maybe what people aren't really aware of is how stupid a Man United fan I am. Some of the silly things I've done in the past. So the biggest highlight for me is I actually traveled on a 28-hour bus ride to go and watch a Champions League final, which is kind of equivalent to the Super Bowl in the US, without a ticket, and got into the game without a ticket, and then my team won the last minute. So that's kind of a big deal to me. And actually, this picture behind here is my remnants of being there in Barcelona in 1999.
I was going to ask where it was. Okay, 28-hour bus ride. Oof. Was it
From
all with
Manchester.
fans, or was that with just general public?
Yep.
Was it with fans, or was it with the
Yeah,
general public?
I'm sorry. Yeah. It was actually a coach trip with, a fan group. Yeah.
Okay, that makes it way more fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, fantastic. Maybe not do it again, but definitely for the time, it was right on spot. So for everyone that's used to this series, we like to share 100 productivity tips, and we do it one by one each episode. Today's productivity tip, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, so one of the things that a lot of people do is they take meetings when actually they don't really question if they should. So the productivity tip is say no to meetings that you don't need. So whenever a meeting schedule comes through, or you're thinking about setting a meeting up, do you really need to have that meeting? And do you allow people to take your time by asking you to a meeting without providing you with a proper agenda or reasons for being there? And that would be my productivity tip for today.
So avoid meaningless meetings. But if you're going to have a meeting, make sure it's set up, and not everybody knows the time, because Lord knows so many people, either if they have to Skype in or Zoom in, they'll be slow and have an agenda, correct?
Correct. And it's because often, we attend meetings, we come away from a meeting, we go, what was that meeting about? So that's what we're trying to eliminate.
Would you pile on top of that, add meeting minutes?
Meeting minutes for sure. So an agenda to start with, meeting minutes as a follow-up action items. Absolutely. Great.
Just as a healthy reminder, especially if the meeting goes long. Understandable.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you for that productivity tip. They're back every week with us here. But I do want to switch gears and talk about our articles. We have an article series where it's written wonderful information on Open Source Workplace. I then narrate it. We put it out in a podcast form as well. One of the articles that we've just covered is how important is it to have office space? Check it out. It's in audio version, and it's in readable format on Open Source Workplace. It goes into depth on why to have office space and how it's important for different business types. It kicks off with personal development as reason number one for office space. Steve, what can office space do to bolster personal development?
It's a really important question. And we sort of think about, I always like to bring things back to myself, right? How do I benefit? What's been a benefit to me? And also, what is some of the research that's out there that's sort of showing, especially younger generations coming through, what do they aspire to and what do they want, right? And also folding in motivation. And we've talked about that in the past. Being together in an office space, being able to see who you report to, your teammates, and interact all the time, provides on-the-job development, right? You get to see what's being asked. You get to see the context of where questions are coming from, what the purpose of a task. You get to see the context of what you do and why it matters to other people in the team, to your superiors, and also the senior leadership. because sometimes we sort of think what we do may not be quite as important as what we think it is. And sometimes that's great to be reminded. It also helps see what other people in the team are doing. You also see opportunities, how they tackle things. You get the ability to observe how people do certain activities, the way the language they use, the way they present or maybe hold or present information. And I think being there and interacting with people closely like that is a real development. It also helps to have those little side conversations with your team, but then also when you're grabbing a cup of coffee in that environment, you may bump into somebody else who perhaps isn't in your team, who you don't interact with all the time. You maybe have a conversation that sort of what they're up to, what they're working on, and perhaps that then allows you to, share what you're doing, and perhaps together you find that other little nugget that helps you maybe solve your problem or help a teammate or an associate solve their problem too.
Sure. And even if not, then you still will feel a connectedness in the whole. Like you're not just a cog off in some random part of the machine. You're helping the wheel turn, so to speak.
Great point, Alec. Great point. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, it also mentions having a social life and how social life is improved by office space. And you've touched a little bit on that. Do you want to go a little bit more in depth for us?
Yeah, I think social interaction with employees is so important, especially for knowledge workers. Social connectedness to people you work with. Whenever teams go through hardships and they have to rely on each other, that builds a bond that actually provides reliance. So whenever something's coming up later, or a project you're working on, you've got a heavy workload, you can turn to your team, and that's sort of that social activity sort of brings that. Creating connectedness within the office environment, again, leads to that collaboration, conversations that you may overhear, that may spark a problem or solve a problem that you're sort of contemplating and thinking about. And again, it's feeling belonging to an organization, right? And that sense of belonging also helps improve engagement from an individual. And there's obviously, we look at a number of large organizations who have invested heavily into social interaction and created social interaction, be it through floor design, campuses design on a bigger scale. And the reason they do that is because they want their employees to feel connected to each other, but also to the organization. And I think it's a thing that is very hard to create sometimes. And sometimes employees have to understand. I always sort of say that there is often a reason why things aren't quite as convenient as what you may think. There's a reason for inconvenience, because that inconvenience sort of creates that social collaboration that we want to create in the office place, because we know that collaboration leads to better innovation and creativity within the organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it not only does it benefit the organization, but we all know there's huge benefits for social aspects, just in personal development as well.
Right, right.
Good, good. Lastly, the article jumps in with time and how precious time can be. But it suggests that office space will actually save us time. Can you enlighten the listeners just a little bit on how that could be?
Sure. I mean, whenever you're in the office and you need a problem or you need to solve a problem, the fact that you can just spin around and just look someone in the eye and have that 2-second conversation to actually fix something, you can hear a problem developing with a teammate who may be on the phone discussing something, and you can sort of jump in and just go to say, here, you save them a bunch of time just actually hearing and solving a problem for them. But the big thing is just, honestly, it's just hearing something that's going on and just being able to address it right there, right then. And reach out to people. And also, it's a lot harder for people to avoid you whenever you look at them in the eye. Where you receive an email or a phone call, people can avoid those things. Whenever you walk up to somebody, it's a lot more difficult. So I think those are really, really the fine points.
Sure. I completely understand. Plus, some people, for instance, I am not a super fast lightning speed reader, right? If somebody sends me an email, yes, I'll take my time. I'll read it. I'll understand it thoroughly. But if somebody were to say it real quick to me, for me personally, it's going to save both of us lots of time, and it's done right then and there.
Right. And then, that 2-minute conversation is probably a 15, 20-minute email exchange, and that's just such a time saver.
Well, if anybody knows me, I talk a lot more, so it's not going to be just a 2-minute conversation. But
You and me both. You know, I have the ability to go into the weeds and all around. You know, so I totally agree with you. Yeah.
fantastic. Well, but that's just us, right? On average, it should save time. So to see other reasons for having office space, check out the article. It's out on Open Source Workplace. Thanks. If you enjoyed this, share it with everyone on your social media platforms. We don't care. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. You can put it anywhere. We'd love to give this information to new audiences and people that are like-minded. Until then, we'll see you next week.